All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of College Esports Insider. I have Kevin Nguyen here from University of Hawaii, the 2022 Collegiate Program of the Year award winners. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, and I hope you guys are doing just as great as well.
Yep, we're very excited to be having this talk. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you and really appreciate your time. So, just to get started, what is your background in esports? How did you get into esports?
So I grew up playing video games, and to be honest, I never thought I would be able to make this as a career. Growing up, I always thought I was going to be an engineer, and so I went to school for it. And I remember, during my college time, I would just play games for fun. I never, I would watch professional league, but I would never think, hey, I could do this as a career. I mean, in high school, you wanted to be a pro player,
Oh,
but
for sure.
that definitely didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so it was during my second semester of sophomore year. I was just in the library studying 24/7, and all my friends were just just going to events. I'm not going to say partying because they weren't, but they were just going to concerts and
Right.
living a college life. And they're like, Kev, you're just so miserable. Like, you're studying all day. And I was like, no, I got to do this. And it's that typical red pill, blue pill. Like, do you want to chase the
Right.
financial stability, or do you want to chase your passion?
Right.
And at that time, I just didn't understand. And so they're like, Kev, you just speak to a financial, or sorry, not a financial, an advisor, just to see, hey, do you want to continue doing this engineering stuff? Because even though you believe you want to do this, do you really? And so at that time, I started just to talk to advisor, and they're like, hey, why don't you take a look at your other options? And that's when I started switching courses, and that's when I got to meet Sky in one of his classes. And that's when he mentioned hey, I study collegiate esports. And I was like, what does that even mean?
That's
This is
crazy.
early 2017. And so we had to go in and to talk to Sky to discuss our papers. And that's when I asked, hey, what is this collegiate esports? I didn't even know this was a thing. I watched professional esports, but I've never heard of college esports in my life. And that's when he explained what it is, how it's growing. And I said, I want to be a part of this. I want to help in any way possible. He started connecting me to other colleges. And so it was weird. I was entering or I was studying at University of Hawaii, but I would help coach at a different college. And this was more so just to get my foot in the door. And that's when I remember this other college close by, they're opening their esports arena. And beautiful. One of the nicest places in terms of collegiate esports arenas. And I just thought to myself, hey, Sky, why do we not have this on our campus? We're much larger. We can probably beat them. I remember saying that, sorry, HPU, but I was like, we should probably be doing something like this. And so we started writing pitch decks. And then funnily enough, Sky had to go to some event, and our president was there. And so they started talking, and then the president mentioned, hey, I'm actually already interested in esports. So we tossed away our pitch
That's
deck.
fire.
And then that's when we started growing our program. But we didn't have a program yet. So this was when my final year, my senior year, I got to enter ambassadorship with Corsair. And there I got to meet Eugenia, who was also at the Esports Awards. And for her projects, she assigned all of us to do one thing on campus that you really believed in. And that's when I said, hey, we've always had gaming clubs on campus, but they always fizzle out and die. Why don't we start one now? Started one, grew to several hundred people. The university saw how important it was for them to invest in it, just because they saw the excitement, the want and the need for just some people on campus. I'm pretty sure you guys have this too. The Smash people,
Oh,
they,
yeah.
they just take up space.
Bro,
And so
they tear it up. I mean, we have 100 or 120 people
Yeah.
brackets at times. It's insane.
Yeah, and so for us, they would just congregate all at the student life center, and they would just take up they would bring their CRTs, they would bring their monitors, they would bring their they bring everything themselves. And I said, this cannot happen anymore. We need a space.
Right.
And so after I graduated, they said, hey, Kev, we really want to continue this. And they took me on full time. And now I'm just continuing to build upon that. We still have our club, but then we also have our varsity program in UHE.
Right.
And so we're just trying to manage both sides hand in hand, just to make sure that, hey, we're not solely focused on competitive. Hey, we're not solely focused on careers and education. Some
Right.
people just enjoy gaming and esports. I always, whenever I talk to my students too, the first thing I always ask them is, hey, is this what you want to do in your career? Because I think a lot of them had that same problem with me, like me growing up, in the sense that, hey, I want to do engineering, which is what I
Right.
thought. But I want to help them explore other options and see what there is in esports. Because the first, like, I also asked them like, hey, if I were to tell you to look up esports careers, do you know where to go? And most of them just say no. I didn't even know like there's a database of like Hitmarker of like, oh wow, there's all these career listings that I didn't even know existed. So that's my like big passion of like, hey, how can we get them connected to industry? How can we help them grow their skills and figuring out how we can get them there. So all in all, I know it was a long convoluted answer, but I didn't think I was supposed to be in esports, but I found my way, and now like I want to give back to my students and the future generations of like, hey, this is an option. You don't have to just chase that financial stability. I believe like your passion can lead to financial stability. That's a whole different topic of collegiate though, because I know collegiate pays not the greatest, but
Oh,
hopefully they fix that later.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
talk
I
about
hope
that in a little bit.
I hope that gets fixed. But yeah, that's like my journey throughout esports.
That's so cool to hear, man. I mean, it's inspiring to hear that right now the base of what you're doing is trying to get others in the industry. It helps grow it, and not only just collegiate but just general esports. We need talent. Like talent is so scarce nowadays that it's so needed, and it's cool that you're helping people build their passions in esports. It's definitely needed nowadays. It sucks that the industry's kind of going to like a little sort of kind of recession within itself with all the financial things. I mean, esports salaries, like player salaries are so blown up. Then you talk about, I don't know if you saw the news today, but Overwatch, all the like Overwatch League teams just ended up hiring like a financial firm from the UK to get with OWL, like the actual league and Blizzard, and figure out how to fix the issues that are going on because all of them are at a loss right now.
Yeah. And like, I think that's most esports programs. I wouldn't say overall, but I think a lot of programs are running into that issue. I think they're investing into it now, hoping that, hey, this is like something that can help with retention and recruitment. But I also think like, I hope that's like universities themselves are just investing in their students and trying to make sure that they have like the best college experience that they can get, rather than just like, oh, okay, like, look, this helps our numbers. Like, hey, this will help attract our sponsors. Like, no, focus on the student first. And from then on, I know a lot of it will come back and help you.
That's facts.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about UHE. So do you guys? This is what I was like researching who you guys were at the Esports Awards, because I had like before that I had no clue. I'll be honest. When we saw the nomination and the Esports Awards, I don't think any of us really looked into all the other schools. We were kind of focused on like, how do we get from like where we're at now to be able to go to Vegas, that we never even bothered to look at. I guess competition, if you want to call it that.
Yep. No, and that's completely fair, because I think a lot of students, or I would say a lot of programs, they're so hyper focused on making their program better, which I think should be the focus. You want to make sure that you can provide the best product for your students, and it's hard to take a look at all the other universities and try to take a look at what they're doing. And I think a lot of it would be like marquee events of like, oh, this was a huge I guess like huge event that took place that you will recognize. So I think an example is Northwood winning Red Bull Campus Clutch in Brazil. Sure. Like, that's something that everyone's going to know and everyone's going to cheer on and everyone's going to root for. Or like Maryville winning a CLOL or like a UST. Like, stuff like that is going to be like highlight. But that's like mainly competition. And then it's like, oh, like Overwatch League. Technically, I guess it would still be under competition because it's under the Overwatch League. But like, you're not going to like hear or like focus on that, or like an opening of an arena, unless it's like gigantic, like I would say full sales. You don't really like notice. And so I totally understand that sentiment of, oh, I didn't even know like they were doing all this, and that's fair. And I don't blame anyone for not knowing. It's just mainly take the time to take a look at what they're doing first. And that's what I think the best part about the Esports Awards is just being able to talk to all the other programs and seeing like, oh, these are the people that showed up. Like, honestly, you guys in Warwick, sorry, I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but you guys inspired us in like,
I love this.
and bringing like other, like our students, like we already talked about it, but just seeing how you guys like showed up and like just gave that experience to this the student body, just to maybe see their favorite pro player or their pro personality. Stuff like that is meaningful, and that's tangible.
It was so
I know
nice.
Like it doesn't show up on the numbers, but that's stuff that I think is like, that's freaking awesome. I want to make sure that we can do that for our students. Hopefully we can like subsidize it or even fund it ourselves, but that's something that we want to do in the future.
Yeah, it's so amazing. For like, I was telling Christine this, I had her on last episode, and it was tough for us because like, we don't get any money from the school, right? The only money that we get is to throw on events. And
Mm-hmm.
that is in itself, it's very limited because we have to be very careful on what we buy. We have to give their school like tracking receipts of literally like everything. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
very limited and it's very, how do I put this? It's very, very, lack of a better term, it's very anal on what I can use that money
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah.
So for us, it's really tough to be able to go to places like this. And although our clubs get a travel grant, you have to book travel like 6 to 8 months in advance. We did
Yep.
not know that we were nominated 6 to 8 months in advance of this whole award
Of
thing. So
course.
that was out of the question, right? So we got very lucky that there were a couple social media competitions going on at the time that were paying like a couple $1,000s, where we were able to use that money to take our executive board of students out there. If it wasn't for that, it wouldn't have happened. And I'm talking about like this literally lined up until like October, like, you know, right when you're
Yeah.
supposed to be booking plane tickets and like hotel money.
Of
Like
course. Of
we
course.
didn't get the money I think till the end of October. Like so it was like, you know, the stars literally
It was
lined
cutting
up
it
for us.
close.
Yeah.
And so I guess like my question is, are you guys are considered a RSO or RIO, like a registered student organization
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
or okay? And oh man, I know exactly what you're going through. This is the pains that I went through when I was like that senior, and I was doing all this. Just yeah, we could only get funding for like events and if we need food, but then like for travel, yeah, 6 to 8 months in advance, and it's. I will say this: it's going to continue on. Let's say you become a varsity program, or they take you on. The responsibilities shift, but it's more so just trying to like keep at it. I know it's exhausting, but you need to show to your administration or to whoever is able to help invest in you guys that hey, this is something that the students are going to want. This is something that is going to continue growing, and this is something that you should invest in. That's the key thing, because if they don't see like an investment in this, they're just going to completely ignore you guys, which man, it frustrates me so much in collegiate esports because I know this happens to a number
Oh,
of
dude.
universities. A couple of like notable ones are like Arizona State. I don't know if they fixed it, but my gosh, they had like a couple thousand people in their program, and the admin just didn't care. A bunch of Florida schools, I know they have like major like
Yeah.
competitive teams, and they just do not care because they're just like, oh, this isn't traditional sports, or why should we invest in this? Like we'll get our recruitment from other means, and
Yeah, and that's tough for us too because, like, you know, when we're okay. You said we're an RSO right now. We're under student affairs is where we're under right now.
mm-hmm,
Through that, we're not an athletics club, right? So when you talk about
mm-hmm,
even some of these programs that go through athletics, you know, it's great for them and it's good that their athletics department is buying in. But in our case, where we're very much community centered as well as competition centered, being just under
mm-hmm,
athletics just doesn't cut it because at the end of that, it just kills off your community if
mm-hmm.
you know, especially when the athletics departments, you know, and this is what they have to focus on, but they have to focus on return of investment almost immediately if they're going to invest in something. And if sports aren't giving that back, they get cut so fast, man. It's especially with D1 schools, it's like insane how that goes. And you know, it's an avenue that we were exploring a little bit, is what would happen if we won under athletics. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of like you have to do what works best for your community first off,
Of
and
course.
then also being able to look out for the future of a program is the second thing. So it's
Yeah,
definitely tough to
and
navigate.
I think I will say this: we were very fortunate in the sense that we had buy-in from all departments of our university. So
Hmm.
when I first started, uh, I remember I had to like sit at an administrative board meeting, and I was so out of place at the time. I was like freshly graduated, athletics head is there, president's there, IT head is there, a student affairs is there, and I'm just like, I do not belong at this table right now. This with Sky, of course, and like what we ended up deciding on is like an umbrella network. And so I think a lot of universities were trying to figure out where does esports really belong? Does it go under education, athletics, there's a bunch of like roadblocks there. And at the end of the day, we just decided it would be best to try to include every single department into into esports, because
Hmm.
in that way we can get input from everyone. No one has like sole ownership. I mean, technically now we're under like our ITS department, our information technology
Hmm.
services department, just because like they're able to basically manage it, because everyone has just too much overhead, and
Right.
they won't be able to like take care of like esports and give it enough attention. But in the sense that everyone's still able to give their input, everyone's able to help out. And I know it's like, oh, but do you run into that issue of oh, there's too many cooks in the kitchen,
Yeah.
we're lucky in the sense that they completely trust Sky and I. Like they're not the ones that are saying like, hey, like you should do it this way or you should do it this way. They're there to help us when we need the expertise and like, okay, we don't know how to handle this legal stuff. The athletic side will be like, oh, we've handled this before, we can help you out, and they'll work with us. And so we're never under any sort of, I would say, like creativity restrictions, just because they really truly buy into what Sky and I believe in, and that's how we've been functioning. And honestly, I really appreciate the administration for recognizing the importance of esports and continuing to promote and perpetuate our program, because without them, none of this would have started as well.
That's amazing. And
And I hope all others, like, I don't know if this is ever going to reach anyone. Please, if admin are ever watching this, please invest into your collegiate programs. Listen to your student leaders. I know it sounds weird to be like, oh, but they're students, they might not know anything, but they can definitely teach you a thing or two, because they really believe in this, and they're there to help you guys out, because I know you guys are a little too busy to handle an esports program. And so please, if this ever gets out, this will be clipped in.
You know, I know that my admin is always on my back about stuff, so I know they're listening.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, no, the goal of me doing this too is like, even with just this podcast, is to have like historically be able to put down something about college esports and like a widespread content form that's able to be reached years down the line whenever people are like looking at how this started. Because, you know, something that I've noticed is that, yeah, you have the OGs, kind of like your Dylan Luce and all those people, but there's not much like historical documentation and content of what college esports is. And that's something that I've found. And, you know, my start in esports has always been with content, whether it be streaming or YouTube or anything. And I used to manage like tier 2 and tier 3 orgs and take care of their content strategies and things like that. So for me, content's very big, and it's something that I always loved doing. And I've just noticed that in the space in general with college esports, it's something that we're lacking so much. And you have a couple people like Adamantor and, you know, you have programs like Shenandoah and a couple others out there that do really good content. Full Sail's another one. But there's not something that covers the wide industry or like the wide space, the wide scene. That's like, I really wanted to get that down and like covered. So this is something cool for me. And I hope that it reaches administrations down the line as more and more schools start adopting programs like this.
And I think the reason, I'll add this to, like the tier one, like, or I'll say like the OG, like the first gen collegiate people, they've all moved on. And that's just because like collegiate itself, I hate to say, it's just not, it's not sustainable for their jobs. Like the fact that I'm still doing this, I just finished my third year, so I'm getting to year 4, and like I don't know how long I can keep doing this. Like it's just the money's not there, and I don't blame our university. It's a hard thing, and so and I know all the other schools are gonna keep doing that, and so everyone ends up moving on. They move to tech or they move to like esports industries because they garnered all the skills, and that sucks because a lot of these people, I do believe this, they still care for collegiate esports. They loved it. They care about the students. They want to like this was their baby too when they all grew up doing this. And so it sucks knowing that they had to leave, but and that's where like a lot of the stories are like missing, because you want to know, like for them, they went through like the trenches. They really had to like push through and fight for everything that they wanted. And so it sucks not knowing those stories, because I think a lot of people are still in the trenches. They're still trying to fight their battles, trying to get administration buy-in. Yeah. And if they're able to provide a little bit of insight, it'd be greatly impactful for these programs.
And for us, it was tough because we came in, at least I came in with the previous officer board that I came in on. We were just starting to get out of lockdowns, and this was like, you know, late 2020, fall of 2020. We had absolutely no idea what we were doing. There was like no like documentation showing what had happened or the processes in the past. There was just stuff showing what was done, not the process of it, you know? So, and I know that we weren't just the only one, because I've heard the stories of all these new student leaders and kind of what they're going through. I've talked to a lot of them and helping out people grow their communities. That's something that I really like doing, is just being able to talk to different student leaders and help them out that way. But being able to like have that like passage of information and going down from generation to generation, a lot of it has been missing, and it really sucks for a lot of people, because you basically have to start from zero. Even though you may have a foundation already with your club or your programs, you still are basically starting from zero. Okay, on like, how do I run this? Like, how do I even do this? And I know like it's been a struggle for my officers that don't have any prior esports experience, where not a lot of people know how to run an esports org. Not a lot of people know
Yeah.
what's going on. And I know that in our case, humble brag, we've been fortunate enough that I've been in esports for 9 years to be able to help
Yeah.
out in some regards there. Not obviously with collegiate stuff, but just general esports stuff. But there's other programs that don't even have that, and it's just people showing interest with no experience, and it really sucks for them. You know, I mean, here in North Carolina, we have a couple schools that are really struggling with that. So,
So I guess like
yeah,
I just want to follow up on this. So I know you mentioned that you started from zero, right? Or like I wouldn't say zero, but like you had to start over.
yeah,
Did you? I wouldn't say enjoy it, but like have that freedom to be like, okay, like we get to start fresh. We get to like I don't want to say set new rules, but start with a new vision in the sense that you're coming in, you believe you can get obviously all the other officer buy-in or all the student buy-in. And let me like preface this with why I'm asking this question. So I remember this is 2017. So probably like this is during that transition year of like engineering to something else. I remember like talking to Sky. This is when I first met him. Like I did not want to go to UH. Sorry, UH, if you ever heard this. I like what I think everyone. I don't know. Were you born and raised in North Carolina?
No, I was actually born in Honduras,
Okay.
Central America, and then I moved to the U.S.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I was 11, and then I grew up in Maryland.
And then okay, so I think for us, this happens a lot with like high schoolers in Hawaii. We don't want to stay here. We're just like,
No.
oh, Hawaii's so boring. There's like you could explore the whole island in like 2 hours, and so we're just like, oh, we just want to leave. And so I wanted to go to UCI, and this was during the time when UCI's program was humongous. Like everyone knew that Pokemate's like throwing scholarship buddy. I remember so I graduated in 2015 in high school, and in 2016 they started offering their college scholarship, and I was like. And then I was like, bummed out. I was like, man, because I got accepted into UCI, but I only got like half my tuition paid for. I was like, man, do I really want to pay like 30 grand a year for college? Like, is this really worth it? And so luckily, like, I mean, hindsight, I'm glad I went to UH. So UH, you can take that clip, but because I didn't have to pay for college, like I was able to, go on scholarship.
That's amazing.
And so, like, the discussion with Sky, and this is what the creativity part and starting from zero, like because I went to UH where we didn't have a program. I got to essentially start from zero. I got to build the foundation from the ground up. I got to basically implant my vision of what I believe collegiate esports should be, not in a dictatorship sort of way, but more so of a, hey, this is what I believe in. Hey, let's get like student buy-in. Hey, do you guys want to throw in your opinions? And I was glad. Like at first it was regret. Like, oh man, I could have went to one of the top esports program in the nation, and I could have gotten a scholarship for it. But then I realized like, hey, I actually like appreciated starting like from like a smaller program, getting to build it from the ground up. Like, yes, there's a lot of struggles. Like you're going through it right now. Like there's a struggle getting admin buy-in, a struggle getting funding. But like I got to learn a lot of skills through that, and I want to continue that. Right. That's why I try to tell other like universities too. Like, I understand it might be difficult. I understand it might be hard. There might be regret. Like, hey, I wish I could have went to Maryville or Shenandoah or X, Y, or Z. But it's okay. Like, you just gotta make sure you invest in your program, invest in your students. I know it's a lot of work because as a student leader and being a student at the same time, it's hard juggling all these different projects at once. But you're gonna learn way more skills than just being, I would say, like a gear or a cog in the system.
Right. I mean, for us, so a little bit of background of when I came in. So I went to community college in Maryland for 2 years.
Gotcha.
During this time, I completely stopped doing esports just because I had lost my, like, I don't know. For me, esports became very stagnant at that moment in time. This was like 2017, 2018. I graduated high school 2018. So during those last 2 years of high school, for me, esports was just kind of like I had nowhere to move up in esports, and that was primarily because of my location as well as my financial situation. I could not travel. I could not afford to travel, right? And back in those days in esports, if you want to go professional, you needed to go to those events. You needed to go out and like network. And there's not that much going on in Maryland and in Washington D.C. for esports besides another OWL team, and they were very privatized on how they ran. So there was not really a way to kind of get in there. At least for me. So for those couple of years that those two last years that I had in high school, and then 2018 to 2020, going through community college, I kind of stepped away from esports and started using the skills that I gained there to work in the music industry.
Hmm.
So that's
That's
kind of what I
awesome.
was doing. Yeah, it was fun. I was doing a lot of administrative work, a lot of project management, as well as just content distribution and content management. And it was like a whole bunch of stuff, but it was cool. We almost threw on a music festival, like a multi-million music festival, bro. That would have been amazing. We were about to have so many good artists, but it didn't end up panning out because of COVID, of course.
Hmm.
So but once that kind of fizzled out, and I was looking at, okay, I finished my 2 years. I'm also an engineering major, so it was 2 years of community college on computer
Gotcha.
engineering, and then I'm like, okay, what engineering school
Uh,
can I transfer to? That was what I was thinking, right? So it was either between UMD College Park or somewhere else. And my thing is, I want to go to a research school, and UMD
huh.
College Park does all their research with the government, and I just hated that. I still do. Like,
Mm-mm-mm.
it's just not my deal, right? I'd like to
Yeah.
work with either university departments or like private companies to be able to build my network in the private sector for engineering. That was at least my goal back then.
Hmm.
So, sorry, Mr. Sergio Physics, but I did not go to UMD.
Yeah.
uh, I ended up going to here, and back then I was still interested in the Call of Duty scene. I come from an FPS background, so
Hmm.
that's when I looked up as to like, okay, is there like college teams for esports? Is this a thing? So I ended up playing collegiate Call of Duty for the first year here at Charlotte. That was fall of 2020 to
Hmm.
spring 21. And after that, I got asked, because of my background in esports and running events as well, and being involved with Major League Gaming back in the day, I got asked if I wanted to be events director. So,
Hmm.
and this was at the time where, like I said, we were just coming out of lockdown. The officer board that I was going into was all brand new, it was all fresh. No one had been there before. So I came in as an events director specifically to put on events. So what we had at that time, we had the student buy-in. We had about 200 members back then,
Awesome.
and we had some okay social media following just because of, like I said, we still had the student buy-in and then some alumni support and some community support from what had been built before. What we just didn't have was, how are we supposed to throw on these land parties? How are we supposed to get the
Hmm.
school to give us the grants? Like, how do we file for this grant? We have a faculty advisor that helped out a lot with the transition there. But he's got a full time job that he's got to take care of. Like, he can't be there to hold our hands through the whole process. So for
Of
us is,
course.
how do we make this actually feasible to where people are going to enjoy it? So that's why I got asked to come in, just because I've been involved in esports events a lot in the past. So at least when I came in, my main goal was, how do I increase student engagement with these events? I know what they've been in the past based on pictures and all that. How do I make
Hmm.
this better? How do I show off esports? Because the way that it had been done before was, the LAN party was specifically like gaming centered, which is fine and that works. It's just that at least in my mind back then, it was like, this is an esports club. How do I combine gaming and esports into one whole entity and be able to throw this amazing thing? So we changed up the formula, or at least I did a little bit, of being able to do more esports centered tournaments around the gaming offerings that we had, as well as being able to show off our teams through being able to invite different schools around the area to compete on the stage. So
That's
we
awesome.
changed that up a little bit, and then we also started just networking with all the schools around here in general. That was like
Mm.
the other thing is, for me, at least, well, team back then, is we were very stuck on kind of Niner Esports and UNC Charlotte. We were never looking at what is everybody else doing. So my other goal is, okay, what can I take from NC State over there, who's a competitive powerhouse, and put into my events? What can I take from UNC Greensboro, who's doing amazing events, and put it onto mine? So it was
That's
trying to
smart.
conglomerate a lot of different things to be able to throw on an successful esports LAN party.
That's
So
awesome. And
yeah,
I think this is where, like, going back to like one of your questions on like, oh, I just don't have the time to take a look at other programs. This is where like this is important, right? Where I know it's still regional, right? Where
right.
you mentioned that you were taking a look at all the North Carolina schools, and this is where we work alongside like our Hawaii schools as well, just because we're neighbors, right? And we're in
Right.
this together. Like, yes, we're competing against each other, but we want to make sure that like both college programs grows, or else like if you have a monopoly over something, admins like, oh, we don't care. Like
Mm-hmm.
we already have like the only esports program. What are people gonna pick? And so we always try to work together. And this is where you can take a look. And hopefully, I think if people get it's just more time, which I know is a lot to ask for, is to take a look at other programs and just see what they're doing and try to take what they're doing. And you can't just steal from them because that doesn't make sense. Like, it's working for them for a specific reason.
Yeah.
Like what works for UCI is not going to work for us just because they have like buy-in from a bunch of different like companies that are right in their area, right? But if we can apply that knowledge of like, hey, if we can get buy-in from local companies at our location, then why can't this work? Why can't they like help out in the same way that they do? So that's what we're trying to invest in.
Is so huge in esports. You have to be able to adapt whatever knowledge you gain from different sources onto what's going on with you. And that was something that I initially struggled with in the past. As I saw, for example, you talk about at the exhibition matches that we do, we had, a couple different schools, 2 different schools that did something similar, but they had PCs. They had we don't have any PCs on campus. How am I going to do this? So I was trying to figure out how to kind of adapt the vision I had with whatever's available, contacts or whatever's available to me, which at the time, thankfully, we got Uconnect to get us some laptops. So we were able to throw that and be able to put a proper vision into it. So it's kind of just being able to adapt yourself as to what's going on around you, and then being able to adapt it to your own environment is like such a huge skill to have, especially when it comes to college esports. It's
exactly. I completely agree. It's because like I would say for us, we're very fortunate in the sense that like when I was at that board meeting, so like we were trying to get computers as well, but we're just like, oh, we didn't have a space, and this is another big topic of collegiate esports. It's like everyone wants to get someplace in some area. I actually want to throw this in really quick. My gosh, like we were fighting because we had a games room on campus. It was like it used to be the old like campus pool room, but now it's a storage. It was campus center, huge space. And I was like bidding for it. I was like, guys, please. I was doing like pitch decks, like, guys, this is like why it's important. It'll help out so many students. We need this much area, and they're like, okay, in order to get the games room, you need to get permission from the people who rent out the space. I was like, perfect. Who is it? They're like, oh, it's 3 different organizations. And I'm like, man, this is like so ridiculous. And obviously no one wants to give it up. And I'm like, guys, storage, like, this is a place where students can be, but they just refuse to give it up. Or given other places they were really run down. But luckily, like, this was like our weird highlight of COVID was at the end of the day, there was this place called the iLab, which was our innovation center. And it used to be a space where it was reserved for like engineers, art department, media people, ourselves as well. And like throughout like my final year of like 2019, we were like in there 24/7 essentially. Like all the other programs, they did use it, but not to the capacity that we did. So during COVID, they're like, oh, we can't take it anymore, or no one's gonna run it. And we're like, we'll take it. And so thankfully, like, that's the weird, like, positive side of COVID. We were able to get the space and now it's ours. But just going back, like, I remember we were looking for PCs and we had the funding for it. And we're just like, where can we put it? And at the end of it, someone from the media side was just like, hey, we're just going to buy the computers and stick it into the iLab. And it worked out. Like, he didn't get permission, which is, it's crazy because, like, normally... you must know this too. There's so much bells and whistles. There's so much logistics. There's so much legal that has to go through to get like one tiny step forward. But he was just like, I'm just gonna do this. He bought like 6 of our initial PCs and just was like, hey Chad, who was the owner or like the manager of the iLab at the time, can I just stick it in here? He's like, okay, yeah, let's go for it. We just did it, and we've been full steam ahead since then. And like, yeah, I'm super thankful that he did that at the time because Chris Lee from ACM, our I think it was like Academy of Creative Media. He really just pushed for it, and honestly, just really made a difference in like getting our program started.
That's amazing to hear. I'm very happy for you guys. Like that's
the thing. It's that buy-in. We just need more administrative buy-in just to believe in it. He was just, and weirdly enough, this also, man, it's because of Fortnite. They're just like, what the? And I'm not even kidding. They're like, this Fortnite thing, it's kind of big. And we're like, yeah, it kind of is. Like, you just don't know where it's gonna, because like at the time, the trajectory just looked so insurmountable. Just what it was like. That guy won $3 million from the championship.
Yes.
And all the admin were just so curious. They're just like, what is going on? Like, we want to know why is there so much buy-in? Why is every kid doing some Fortnite dance? And so, you lead into it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, we want to make sure that our students can invest in it too. And it was so funny because at the time, they thought like Fortnite was the only esports, or like, it was the big one. But except most people in college, they're playing like League of Legends.
Yeah.
Valorant didn't exist. It was Overwatch, CS:GO, and so it was like, oh, we're trying to get a Fortnite community, but there wasn't that much, and so it was like, oh, okay, like we just had to get like people to try to get on Fortnite, just for our media stuff. But yeah, it's kind of funny knowing that like Fortnite really accelerated our growth in a weird way.
Have you guys done stuff with Epic Games at all?
We did. No, we haven't actually. Have you?
Oh, I have a contact
I mean,
for you for later.
Oh man, I mean, they're based in North Carolina, aren't they?
Like I said, I have a contact
like,
for you later. That once you're done recording, I'm gonna give you the score.
Okay,
Amazing
like,
guy. Shout out to Kenny from Epic Games, man. He's amazing. He's been supporting us a lot lately, and we've been thankful enough. We've gotten like custom lobbies for Fortnite. We did a big event, and we have something else in the works that we're about to launch, and it's gonna be amazing with Fortnite. So. We got some talking to do later, but yeah, Fortnite's amazing. I love what Fortnite's doing in esports, and I love what Fortnite specifically been trying to do in college esports. They're trying to get a lot of buy-in in here.
I mean, I'll say this: I like what they're doing with like the youth, because my gosh, and yes. I'm not even saying like, oh, like TikTok. It's like, okay, the amount of collabs I'm seeing from Fortnite, because like I'm still following their Twitter. It's bonkers. I'm just like, what the heck? There's like every anime, there's Ariana Grande, there's like, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I really think like to buy into, what is it, a traditional like media or pop culture, it's just fantastic. Every kid's playing it, and I know it's like, because I think every like boomer is gonna be like, oh, but Fortnite's dying, and yes, the numbers are lower, but like I did I spoke to a couple like kids. It was like a first grade class. I was like, oh, what games are you guys playing? I couldn't believe my ears. Fortnite, I was like, okay, I believe it. They're like, I'm playing Call of Duty and Valorant. I'm like, you guys are like 6. I was like, I barely knew how to hold a mouse and keyboard at 6. So it's just showing like where the industry is going. And like, we just got to make sure that people are still like, not like pooping on these games, because like I think it's important like to just encourage these kids to play games and like do it in a healthy manner. But just to sidetrack, we also have someone that works at Epic now, and this is the key thing. It's like trying to get our students into industry. She works on their Rocket League side and their marketing, and she's fantastic. So yeah, I would still love to get your connection, but it just goes to show like, hey, like work on your students. They're gonna get into industry, and they're gonna want to give back, right?
For sure.
And so it's just awesome to know that like we're just a tiny state, and if we can get people out there, who knows what's next, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not only are your alumni going to be able to do that, but also just being able to in general, getting more collegiate people, more and more that are going into the industry, it's just going to get stuff back to collegiate esports as a whole. Exactly. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that the scene right now, it's still such, like, we talk about esports being in its infancy in general, but when you talk about like college esports, man, like it's a baby, like newborn. I mean, it's insane where we're at right now, but the potential of this, because of what the industry has done already, is going to be so great. I mean, we were running through viewership numbers on all the stuff that we compete in. Our viewership numbers now, like between all of our leagues combined, is bigger than like college football. It's insane. College football, college football gets around 23 million, like potential. I'm talking about potential viewership, right?
Okay.
With potential people that are able to watch college football, I think like their viewership goes up to like at peak, it's been around 23 million or something like that. Then when you talk about college esports, like where we compete, and then the broadcasting capability of that goes up to 90 million people who are following these channels and that are keeping up at some point or another with esports. Yeah, and it's crazy.
I think growth is like stagnant right now in terms of like how to like push that viewership, because I think a lot of leagues themselves are doing the same thing, to be quite frank. And this is just, I also think it's a North American esports thing. It's a big problem. I know they're trying to fix it like with LCS and trying to change up their broadcast, but I think something different needs to happen, or else it's like, oh, every college is doing the exact same thing. They're streaming their matches, they're getting their shoutcasters, they're upping production. And I think those are good skills. Don't get me wrong. I think this is just essential skills that if students want to go into the broadcasting world, they just need to know the basics. But then it's like, okay, what does the creativity come into mind? And I'm not saying like do something wonky or like funky. What is going to draw in the attention of your the viewership, the fans, the audience? And I think that's where like a lot of people are stuck. I'm not saying I know the solution either, but it's something that you just made me think about right now. It's like, oh yeah, how can we like
that's
push that
something that I've
viewership
been
number?
thinking about for such a long time. It's like, or at least not for a long time, but just for like the past year or so that I've been kind of involved in this, is I noticed that we do the bare necessities when it comes to content.
Exactly.
We broadcast matches, we broadcast events, and that's good and all, but it needs to be elevated. There needs to, when you talk about like these big schools that have more budgets, such as like your Maryvilles and your Shenandoahs of the world, that have the ability to produce this content, they need to, at least in my opinion, some of these schools should be able to elevate or start the path for this for others, where you start investing into content with your players, content with your club members. How do you get them involved in content that doesn't have to deal with competition or events? Just getting them out there and being able to do content on campus, things of that nature, where you're branching out beyond just what is your current esports things and more into giving personalities to college esports. That's the thing that we need right now, in my opinion, that it just isn't being done. We don't have college esports personalities. I mean, you can't. I can think of 3 people that maybe have some type of following on social media because of content in all of college esports. We don't have personalities at all.
I guess like my question, just to add this, man, we're gonna go on a tangent but this is an interesting conversation. Like just the time that it takes to like. So here, like we have a new content team. I love our. I always say this. Like I love our content team. They're my favorite team just because like they're able to show off the personalities of our players. But I think the problem we always run into is time. Like, and like, man. So one of the OG like collegiate Twitch people or collegiate esports people, his name's Kevin Hong. He used to work at Twitch, and he used to tell me like, Kev, you guys live in Hawaii. Like, how are you guys not doing more IRL content? I'm like, you know what? You are so right. Like, this is like we live in the golden paradise. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone wants to know like what is out there like in Hawaii and like what they're getting themselves into. I was like, man, you're right, but we just don't have the time essentially. And like now we're trying to put our like this.
You know what I think would be perfect for something like that? Every student, at least nowadays, and there are some contingencies to this. Every student nowadays goes out and tries to have fun, right?
Yeah.
Now imagine if you guys plan an outing with a team. Let's say like your Valorant team wants to go to the beach and play some volleyball, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's make a video out of you guys playing beach volleyball and having like a 1v1 tournament. Stuff like that, where you not only capture them having fun, because they are having fun, they're spending their Saturday or their Sunday having fun already doing this.
Of course.
But then it helps you guys because now you're getting valuable content of these guys' genuinely personality, guys and gals, genuine personality on who they are, and being able to attach a phase to the player name. And then just showing them off. That's, not only like, when you talk about time like that, you might not be able to get them during a week because of classes. And,
of course.
A lot of these people have schedules when it comes to esports and then classes, and then they might have like a part-time job somewhere. But when it comes to like weekend time for college students, I think that's perfect. And I think that a lot of colleges in general should look at that, is to how can I bring my students a fun activity that may not cost much for me or for them even, but that I'm able to go send 1 to 2 people with cameras to just capture these moments and then see how it goes.
I was just going to say, it would like, it's so hard because it would either have to be like one of the students holding a camera, and that's fine, they could switch off and stuff, but it's just like even then like the weekend, like people have part-time jobs, and it's just always like 2 to 3 people missing, and it's like, oh man, we can't really do this. And like I know for pro teams, like they have like we learned this from Overwatch, they just have like a media day where like each team comes in and they switch off, like they're obligated to do this. We're thinking about doing that too, because example of like one of like my favorite content pieces to get to know like players is I don't know if you watch like LEC at all, but they do like what you call like pop quizzes from LEC, and I love that. It's just like, oh, you get to know like their personality, what's going through the brain, and it's like it's still league related, but like I want to do something like that, or like a blind like taste test with like my students.
Media days are so, I think media days, and especially when it comes to like esports, just general esports, are so important because of that. And it's good that you guys are thinking about this, because it is something that, should be applied, in my opinion, to at least to college esports. If you're not able to fit it into your students' regular schedules, then maybe, the people that are involved specifically in the varsity program that already have kind of an obligation to be there for the program, being able to maybe add on a couple hours, like an hour or
That's what
two
we're.
of just being there and being able to shoot some content, you really only need an hour or two to shoot a good piece of content. Like at most,
Mhm.
I think, in my opinion, you really only need 2 hours to be
Yeah.
able to get something good, especially if you have like, if you plan this ahead of time and just give them what to do. Like you said, the taste test when you're talking about that, or
Yeah.
like little cool videos like that. You really only need probably about an hour to an hour and a half to plan this out. About an
Hmm.
hour of prep time and then 2 hours to shoot.
Yeah. Because yeah, it's not the prep time. I'll put in as many hours as we need, right? And I
Yeah.
think people like we have students who are invested in this. They love doing the content.
Oh, for
It's more
sure.
so like, man, getting those players. Like I always say this too. Like collegiate players, actually just esports. Man, we know this when Overwatch. Just pro players are just like they're babies, not in the
Oh, bro,
like
they
in the
really are.
literal sense where it's like you have to like hold their heads like, okay guys, we have practice at this. Like
Yep.
man, like I'll say this, Mad League team, you guys do this. You guys need to get babied for everything. It's like, okay guys, we have scripts. Like it's okay, it's wake up time. Like they really do it. It's like I get it, and it's a part of like being I would say esports manager,
Yeah.
and no matter where you are, but um it's just getting that time to get them there to participate in the event. Because and a clear example too, if you were to do research on UH Sports, right, you're gonna put in Google and you're gonna see our YouTube channel. You could be like, what the heck is here? Like you're barely gonna see anything. Like yeah, we have like I would say one of our like a couple of our content pieces that are gonna help you know is like, oh, okay, here's our Valorant like who is our Valorant team. We did a video on that and our R6 team. Like that's stuff that is needed, right? So that you get a general overview of like, oh, this is like the UH Esports Valorant team. This is who they are. This is what their majors are. This is what they like to do. Like just cool stuff. Or I would just say like more chill, like casual stuff rather than like, oh, here are the highlight gameplay like videos that everyone does and like no one's really gonna watch unless you're like
Yep.
actively recruiting. You know, it's like, oh, like if you're gonna do research on a program, you want to see like what's cool about their program, what they do, what their arena is like, what is day to day like is like there at University of Hawaii, right? That's what you want to see, not like okay, here's X players 50th highlight for the 100th time or
Hmm.
something. So
Yeah, I think, and in terms of just content, if you're trying to get the general public to even just buy in, we're past the age of uploading gameplay, in my opinion.
yeah,
I think it's cool if you have like a highlight reel, like once or twice a month type deal for like a team just to highlight them. But when you talk about content and trying to get a fan base going and supporters beyond just your school or even just your school, people who may not be into esports but might be into gaming and just want to see what's going on campus, if you want to get them to buy into what you're doing, you have to be able to put out content that they can relate to.
hmm
And whether that be following trends on social media or maybe coming up with something creative of your own that you're able to do give personalities to these players and staff that are involved in the program, it's very important and it needs to get done. And I hope that a lot of the varsity programs that exist out there do start doing that because I think that's what's going to mainly start elevating your programs. Because right now, like I said, right now we're in a big esports recession and a lot of sponsor money is not there right now. I think
yep,
3 or 4 years down the line now, when a lot of these schools start building this content strategy and like executing it properly, and we're able to get buyback in general, you're gonna start seeing a lot of endemic and non-endemic brands. Even just looking at college esports, when you talk about an increased fan base, the same way that just pro esports is ran right now. I mean, you have
yeah,
your like Chipotle's, your Jack Links, and all those people. Even the car, Nissan's very involved.
yeah.
We've seen Gucci start getting involved with like Face It and stuff like that. Being able to bring those type of partnerships into college esports would elevate it, but it's not going to get done unless we have proper eyes on us. And I'm talking about like millions of eyes on
Yeah.
us.
I completely agree, and it's also like man, this is such a fun tangent. But it's like figuring out your like your target demographic of like, okay, if you're gonna invest in or like if you're gonna reach out to Nissan, like how are these students like how are they gonna relate to or connect to Nissan, right?
Right.
Like are these students gonna be like first time car buyers? Like okay, what is gonna make them want to buy Nissan? And this goes on and on for like every single sponsor that you bring in. But yeah, people just need to think outside the box more. And I'm not saying like oh everyone else like this is like UH Esports included. Like we're trying to really push our boundaries. Like Sky's working with me to try to make sure that when we reach out to people, we're trying to connect with them on a like just a deeper level. And I know
Right.
it's so stereotypical, but it's like no, really, like how can they connect with our students? How are they going to get our students buy-in? And like, okay, is it just going to be our esports program, or like is this going to connect to like the collegiate student environment? And so honestly, it's such a fun topic, but we're gonna like go on a like super
Oh, I
tangent.
could go on this for hours, bro. I can go on content for
Yeah,
hours. That's like I said, that's my bread and butter of esports, man. I've been doing this for so long. I could keep going. But
yeah.
shifting topics a little bit. You guys were the winners of the Program of the Year award in 2022. So big congratulations to you, your students,
Thank
everyone
you.
involved, and everyone in Hawaii. You guys, it was very much deserved. And like I said, after looking at what you guys do and all that you've done, you all deserve that so much. And I'm very happy that you guys got that. And it's
Mhm.
amazing for you guys. Now looking forward to 2023, we have the College Esports Awards that have been announced by Mike Ashford, the CEO of the Esports Awards. So, what's your initial take on that? Like, when you saw that announced, how did you feel about it?
Uh, to me, I think it's just a very good change in directions because I do think there needs to be separate categories. But I also think because of how large and massive collegiate esports is, I think it's deserving of its own award show. I know a lot of people from outside of collegiate might just think of it as like, oh, it's just a small sector, but there's a lot of bright, young, talented people in this industry that really deserve to get recognized. And
Mm-hmm.
because of just the amount of space that there is in the esports awards, I'm just very happy to know that there's going to be a time and place where we can just solely focus on the greats of collegiate esports and what they're doing and how we can continue to support and perpetuate it. Also, I think it'd be sick to see like an event where, sorry, I know that was like very PR esque, but that's like I'm also gonna be like very happy that like there's gonna be a space where it's just like collegiate esports people only.
Oh, me too, man.
I'm also like a little like it feels funky and like in the sense that like I do believe like the esports awards itself is very important for like let's say like when you guys came and Warwick came, like you get to see people like I don't know, like Nate Shot or Cam Flowers or Rivington, these like people that you look up to. It sucks knowing that they won't be there at this collegiate esports events, or I don't know, maybe like depending on how they format it, or maybe if they host it. But I digress. It's more so like I think it's cool to see just a hub of like collegiate
Yeah.
esports people just to talk and discuss and like really grow the industry as a whole. And that's what I'm hoping for. I think that's the coolest part, knowing that like, hey, this is all collegiate esports.
Right. So, I do agree, bro. Getting to meet Nate Shot was like,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah,
For me, at
it's
least.
no, because it's like hard for you to like really see these people and like
It's crazy, and
uh,
it was funny for me because I was just sitting at the main ceremony with my people, and I spot the dudes from esports gear, and I start having conversations with them. They're a merch supplier, so they do all our jerseys and stuff. And I start talking to them, and all of a sudden they see Nate Shot, and they go take a picture with Nate Shot, and I'm like, oh, cool, whatever. I'm about to go sit down, and the esports dudes are like, no, Jorge, come here, take a picture with Nate Shot. Nate Shot, like these guys, like we do merch for them. He's their president. Like, can you please just one more picture, please? And then like they're so cool, but. And then
that's
Nate
awesome.
Shot, yeah. Then Nate Shot asked me what we did and everything. So it was funny for us because then homie, like as he's walking off, he was like, "Hey, you think we could do D1 basketball at your school? Like if I came in there, could I do it?"
That's so funny. And like I want to share like two like unique esports awards stories as well. Like first one was like in 2021. I got to meet Captain Flowers. I always like bring snacks. I want to try to give out people stuff from Hawaii. You got some yourself, like just to like showcase like, hey, what it's about here. And I remember Captain Flowers. Like I normally don't ask for photos, and like he was like, "Yo, Kev, do you want to take a photo after?" I was like, "Oh, really?" He took it on his phone, and so that was like what he was super nice, like just like genuine. Like I remember this was at the after party in 2021, and it was because the after party was at the venue itself. And like he like took me aside so that we can like have a small conversation. This is super fantastic and nice of him. And the second one is Dash. In 2021, we both didn't win like our respective awards at esports host and like collegiate esports. But in 2022, I got to see him again, and like I talked to him a little bit. I was like, "Hey Dash, I just want to share like, oh, we were able to like win the award too, and like I'm glad to see that you won too." And it was just like a really like
That's
cute
so
moment. And
cool.
he's like, because like here's the other thing too, because I gave him the snack. This isn't just a tactic. It's more so like I genuinely mean it, but
Yeah.
they're gonna remember you. They're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, you're that guy who gave me the snack last year from Hawaii." And like they won't remember your name, but they're just gonna remember that you did a nice gesture.
Oh, for
And so he
sure,
was like,
man.
"Yes, I completely remember you." He's like I'm super happy for you. Congratulations and all that stuff. And yeah, and so and like even weirdly enough, I gave Rivington a snack,
Yeah.
and like he was like, what's your Twitter? I'm gonna follow you. And he did. He like followed. He pulled through. I was like, what the heck? I didn't
Oh, that's
expect that.
fire.
But like now, someone I look up to in the industry is like following me. So yeah, there's just a bunch of great people in the scene, and like I know it's like really like it's weird to just go up to talk to. Even I'm like that. I feel like really nervous and shy.
Oh, for sure,
But
man.
it's just like, but that way, like I can like give them a snack. It's like, hey, like this is something I want to give you. This is my thanks for like what you guys do too, my students and myself growing up, and like yeah, then it just sparks up a conversation, and then we can just like have a short chat about it.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out into the College Esports Awards, because I know that they said that they were going to have a summit attached to the event. It's just going to be curious as to, first of all, they have to get industry buy-in some way to be able to not only fund this, but also to actually throw a successful summit. I think that having a primarily only collegiate summit, that's gonna if we only had people from the college esports scene working into that summit, that would be interesting. I don't know how that would work out. So I think that if they wanted it to be as successful as I think what they're envisioning, they're definitely going to have to get industry buy-in. So I'm hoping that we do get to see some of those, names and personalities there at the College Esports Awards. But something that kind of goes along with that is the timeline of it. When you talk about whether it should be hosted during the summer or at the end of the year along with the regular Esports Awards, what do you think is the best move?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Oh, you're good. No, yeah. So, do you think it would be a good move to host it after the academic year during the summer, or doing it attached to the regular esports awards at the winter?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Because everyone's been talking about this. We've been having
probably oh, man. I think it'd be a cool idea to attach it to the winter one, but I just think time wise or like logistics might be a problem. Also, winter that during that time was also like final exams for a lot of our students.
Right.
Like that was the one concern that we had, like about bringing our students. I'm sorry. The reason why I asked you to repeat the question is like I remember you were talking about a collegiate or like conference or a summit. It just reminded me that do you know what CEX is?
No.
So CEX is the Collegiate Esports Expo. It happens at PAX East, and so that's like essentially where it's a hub for collegiate events. You guys should probably go. So we went like in 2020. This is like right before COVID, by the way. Surprised I didn't get COVID then, but like because this was when I just got hired. I was a couple months in, and I got my administration. Hey, like we should go to this event, and we also got to go to PAX East. Also, I'm just gonna throw this in. Funny story. Like we went to PAX East. Like this was like during these events, it's important for me to network with all these like companies and industry professionals. And like I remember my boss, like her name's Hay. She's sweetest lady ever. She's now retired, but she was telling me like she was going through all these like panels. She's like, oh, I got to go to this voice actor panel. I was like, oh, great. Hey, I'm like talking to all these industry people. I'm trying to get sponsors, and she's just like having a good time. Like, and again, this is because I want this is for me to showcase to the administration, right? Of like, hey, this is what esports and gaming is all about. Because they don't know this. They're just like, they completely trust us. So they're just like, oh, okay, we don't really know. My only concern with the CEX is like, it's very like, because these are admin, right? They go to like professional like summits and panels, and they're not used to like all these collegiate panels are like super laid back. They're chill out. Like, and it's like, yeah, go ahead.
Who hosts CEX? Like, who puts that? Is that like the UConnect people? Do you know, or like who is it?
I don't. Here, I'll send you their website right now. Sorry, I know it's on pod. Actually, I'll send it right after. But
yeah, it's because I have a question for after. It's because I'm going to PAX East this year, so that's been decided. And I knew that there was going to be like some type of collegiate something going on because somebody told me, and I got asked to be in something regarding collegiate, but like I didn't get any background info besides the fact of, hey, let's get you involved into this, and I got voluntold basically. So I'm gonna ask you later, but it's just weird.
Yeah, well, the reason why I brought this up is it completely like triggered the memory of like when you said collegiate esports summit is I don't know how like because here I think like let's say me, you, like Shenandoah, Dan Clarkey, like all these people, we're already in industry. Like us going, we're gonna talk about how we can make collegiate programs better. But my worry is I don't know how much of a dent it makes in the industry in terms of like getting program and administration buy-in. Does that make sense? Like the goal of these summits should be like, hey, how do we get presidents there? How do we get other administration there to be like, oh wow, this is like much bigger than we thought, or like just to get them to even watch the event, because then they would understand like, oh, this is why this is important. This is why we want to invest in it. Like we already believe that this is important. We already want to invest in this. There's no point in us like continuing to try to push that needle because we already have all have buy-in. It's just more so how do we get buy-in from the people that I hate to say that matter, but that can actually move our needle, right? And so that's where I'm coming from.
summit.
my thoughts on this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and when you talk about a summit and even just the awards themselves and happening on the timeline, I think that the importance of it would be much more meaningful during the summer. Something that we were kind of touching on in the conversations that I was having with a couple people is the financial aspect of it, of how they're even going to fund this whole thing.
Yes, please make it cheap. Oh, like I also think it's man. Sorry, esports awards, and no hate. It's more so like, man, it's so expensive because like
Oh, I know.
we want our students to come in. I was like, man, if they could just push the price down. It's such a tall ask though, but like if you push the price down, that in that way, a lot more students can attend because again, they have to pay for flights, they have to pay for hotel, and I know
Yeah,
they have
it's
like
tough.
subsidized hotel pricings, but
The price tag on
it's
the
a tough
event
thing.
itself was tough.
Yeah.
Like, I know, like Shenandoah, they were talking to me about when they went, they had to like get a couple of their students to actually like volunteer at the event to get some subsidizing because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to go. But they really like were set on going. And I know that a whole bunch of like the other because there was a whole bunch of varsity directors there, which I was actually very surprised about. But
Yeah.
everyone that went, that was like the main thing, is like collegiate does not have that much money to spend on a $1,000 per person price tag for an event. It's just not happening. No shot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you saw the survey that Esports Awards sent out about collegiate, but like they were talking about the different price points, so like 25 to 50, or like 50 to 100, or 100 to 200, or like 200 plus, or something like that. I really hope they're able to stay under the $100 price range if they want students to go in, and I really also do think that if they stay under that price range and they do it at a spot that is affordable to travel to, they're going to get a lot of student buy-in, which is going to be how they're going to make a lot of that money back, in my opinion.
Completely agree. I think the students will be just another key factor in like, hey, this is why it's important. If administration start to watch it, if program directors start to watch it, they're going to notice like, hey, this is something that they really care about, that they're willing to put their money into. This is something that we should continue to invest in. But if the price is too high, then I'm a little worried.
I'm worried for them if the price is too high because, like I said, the only way to make this as successful as it can be is if you get the students behind it. It's cool and all to get the directors and administration there, and it's awesome that they're able to go. But the meat of this whole scene and specific chunk of the industry is quite literally students. You have to get students out there one way or another. Otherwise, for one, it's not going to be a successful event financially. And then for two, in my opinion, it's almost going to be done for nothing because administration is not going to get interested unless students are there backing it and showing why it matters to them.
Exactly.
So I really hope they get that done. But, other than the timeline and financial points, what categories do you want to see?
Honest, man, like to me, obviously everyone's going to talk about competition.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I think now it's shifting, but I do want to see just more community based and a couple things. I want to see like program that's recognized for its community and what they do for it. I know it's very broad, but I want to see like what are programs doing and what is their definition of community. And two, I want to just recognize like a bunch of leaders in the space. There's probably like I know my people, but like there's probably so many more that are doing so many great things that I want to learn about, right? And that's not to be like, oh, I should just vote for who I know. It's like, no, this gives me a chance to take a look at these like industry leaders, these creative minded people, just to see what they're doing, how they're investing in their program, how they're growing, and like what we can take away from them essentially.
Right.
So like that's what I want to see. It's just those specific things, community and leadership recognition.
I definitely agree. Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to be like administration recognition, but also like who are the student leaders that are doing amazing things. Like Jorge, I didn't know you guys like weren't a varsity program until you told me. I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, do you know how much like I just like know the pains that you guys are going through. So I was like, man, like the fact that you guys are nominated is freaking insane. Like that should be a highlight in itself. Like,
it's funny
to be quite frank, like I mean, think about it. Like, I have it easy. Like, collegiate sports is hard overall, but I have it easy compared to you guys, where it's like, okay, we have administration buy-in, they're helping us out. It's like, oh, man, like, and people don't know that. Sorry, we're gonna go on a whole different tangent. Like, people don't know that, like, how hard it is for a student club to like just do something. Like,
a lot of people
you guys have no help.
How like?
Sorry, I'm talking over you. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you're good, man. I love this, and I appreciate the sentiment because a lot of people don't understand in 2022 and 2023 how hard it is to do college esports against these, like, 200 to 300 programs that have the buy-in. A lot of people don't understand the work. And, I was telling, like, all of our people, we were talking about that we literally have to work 2 to 3 times as hard as some of these programs just to be able to not even go above them, but to just be able to contend
to survive.
It's tough. And, especially nowadays when you talk about, student organizations that are at the level that, oh my God, I hate bragging, at the level that we're at, it's hard. Yeah, that's the.
But you should recognize. You should recognize the work. I know it's like, oh man, I hate to brag, but it's like, it's like it shows your humility, but it's also like, no, you guys should be proud and happy of what you guys are doing to try to essentially stay afloat, right? It's so difficult. It was crazy to me to find out that you guys weren't a varsity program. It's like, man, that's so
difficult.
rough.
And like the talk that I've been having with our administration, which I know that a lot of other programs share, is that it's just not sustainable at all. It's not sustainable. The only, like, for example, and this is something that I've talked about with my student leaders, because I'm about to graduate this semester. They're scared because it literally takes how do I put this in the nicest way possible? It takes one person to make it or break it, right? So in the sense of, like I said earlier, I'm fortunate enough to have had the esports experience to be able to bring that into the table here. But when you talk about a lot of these other student leaders that their first kind of, experience with esports is in college and trying to get involved right now in college esports, they really don't know much of, like, what it takes beyond just fielding a team out, right? When you talk about keeping your student community engaged, when you talk about content, when you talk about broadcasting, you talk about the business side of it, and being able to get buy-in. If you're not getting buy-in from your university, being able to get community buy-in. When you talk about both financial and also just community support, there's so many aspects of it that a lot of people don't see and they don't really learn about until they go into college esports. And it sucks that a lot of student leaders, as we go forward, are gonna get put kind of in the trial through the flames of having to get, like, learn that on the spot. And as much time as I can spend teaching my student leaders a lot, it's gonna suck for them once I'm gone, and they show the sentiment of, like, well, we have big shoes to fill. But it's like, it's not that. It's that it's just not a sustainable system for you guys, just because you guys don't have the exposure that other people have had to the general industry. And that's really gonna suck when I know for us the big thing that we're scared about is what happens, and if this year specifically we don't get buy-in when we're kind of sort of what we feel like is kind of our peak performance that we've been in as a program. It's like, we've been nominated for this cool award on top of the fact that all of our teams are top 40 or better. We're having so many community and, like, both local and inside of the college community efforts, and, like, there's so much going on, and it's gonna suck for them when they have to realize that a lot of the work and the administrative work behind that has to kind of be fizzled out to them instead of me being able to take into it a lot of it.
I think it's one, trying to get the students to understand, like, hey, like, this is our baby, like, we have to invest in it and make sure. And I know I say this word a lot, it's like invest, but it's like, no, we really have to continue to push forward this industry. And I'll give this as an example. So the student club that I started, it's still being run. When I passed it on, I was worried, right? Like, it was my baby. It was, I invested in it. But, like, the student leaders that took after it, they did a much better job, and that's what you want, right? Like, you want your baby to grow, and you want it to be better than what you could have envisioned it. And after that student leader retired, the next one, who's the current iteration president, is growing it even more. Now he's working with Gen G and doing partnerships there, and it's like, dude, this is awesome. Like, you want to continue to see it to grow and become better than the last iteration. And this is where it's like, I hope those students can understand that. And I know, like, you're taking on the majority and the brunt workload, but it's like, hey guys, like, if we really believe in this and we really want this to grow, like, we're gonna have to work hard. We're gonna have to work as a team. We're gonna all work together. We can't just rely on Jorge over here to take on everything. Like, at this point they have to, like, start doing more too. And it's also hard to. I know you're gonna go through this too. It's like, oh man, do I really want to let go? Like, I feel bad. Like, or man, what if they mess this up? It's like, and I still go through this too. But it was a rough lesson for me to learn. Like, they have to, like, they have to make the mistakes. They have to learn through it all. But that's okay.
I've been putting my officers through a lot of things. I've been teaching them how to write pitch decks and just decks in general. That's like the first step for me. Like, these guys need to learn the business aspect of it before I'm even able to give them more things. But also just, I've been like less on their backs about things, just letting them figure it out. Kind of worst way to put it, letting them fall if they have to fall.
Yeah,
that's what I've been doing lately. And they're feeling it. I know that some of them are really feeling it. Some of them are actually acclimating well to the environment. But yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that they're going to keep growing, and that's, I'm always going to be there. Like I told them already, I'm always going to be there to support you guys no matter what happens, whether this actually goes through this year or not. And thankfully, I've got a lot of meetings with administration scheduled over the next, and some of the departments as well, in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we're able to get something going. But yeah, I'm preparing them for the what if that doesn't happen. That's like the main thing.
Gotcha.
Because it's at this point, it's not sustainable unless you have a figure that acts as a director of the program. Is kind of what we found has happened over the past year and a half of me being there, is that I've taken on a lot of the brunt end of the thing, that when I'm gone, a lot of them are going to have to learn a very good lesson there. So I'm trying to get them there right now. Hopefully it happens. And, I'm very hopeful that they're going to be able to grow. And I know that they probably will be. Just always in the back of the head, like, what happens if it doesn't? But
yeah. You just got to be hopeful.
Yeah, but amazing. So we are at the hour and 10 mark. We could keep talking all day long, but I don't want to hold you up too much. Yeah. I don't want to hold the viewers up too much.
I was like, so we could definitely keep going. It seems like, we have a lot of like-minded things, and we have I think we're very like-minded, but we also have like interesting and unique perspectives, which is why I think we could definitely keep going for a while.
For sure. And we got to do another one of these someday.
Yes, definitely.
But you got anything that you want to shout out? Anything else you want to talk about? Last topic or two that you want to talk about?
No, I just want to say, like, thanks Jorge for hosting this. I think it's a great initiative and trying to essentially start a history book in collegiate esports. I want to thank all the people in collegiate who are working their ass off, essentially trying to make sure that their students get as much support as they can. And I hope that we can, like I said in my speech, I hope we can continue to perpetuate student growth and help them in their careers.
For sure. This is for the students, and I'm hopeful to see the student talent that we're developing being able to take on the reins, and whether they stay in collegiate or being able to go to pro. I hope they're able to chase that dream, but also I hope that the industry keeps growing in a way that we're actually able to make those dreams happen. That's what I'm hopeful for. So
same here.
Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you.
No, thank you.